This is a Women with Disabilities Victoria podcast. We acknowledge that these podcasts were recorded on the traditional lands of the First Nations people of this country. We acknowledge their elders, past, present and emerging. We acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded and this is and always will be Aboriginal land. From the Outskirts is a series of podcasts featuring women with disabilities who live and work in regional Victoria. I'm Liz Wright, a disability activist and advocate. I'm also the Manager of Community Inclusion and Women's Empowerment at Women with Disabilities Victoria. All the interviews were recorded in each person's home or workplace, so from time to time there is unexpected background noise. Jenny Godwin is a doer, renovator of multiple houses, restorer of furniture and French polisher. Jenny's also the Hub Liaison Officer at Cobram Community House for WDV. Jenny, like her daughter Nikita, has a busy and interesting life, travelling kilometres around the region to do the things they love.
Hi, I'm Jenny Godwin. I'm in Cobram on Yorta lands.
Hello Jenny, it's Liz Wright here. I'm in Cobram on a sunny winter day and it's quite beautiful here. What brings you to Cobram? Why are you here?
My family came here when I was a teenager. And I've lived here since. I've wandered around, but always come back here.
And you're working here at Cobram Community House. What's the Cobram Community House like as a place to work in?
Awesome. Yeah, it's great people, lots of different people, lots of people coming in with training or just for help or, all kinds of things really. So lots of different people using the space.
And what's your role here?
I'm the Moira Hub Liaison Officer for Women with Disabilities Victoria and running the hub here for women with disabilities.
And what does that involve?
So each month we have a meeting and we bring in guest speakers. The women actually elect things that they would like to learn about or people that they would like to meet or even different things like they would like to learn different ways of de-stressing. So we would bring in people to actually facilitate that.
And how long have you been in this role?
About 4 years. Yeah, since the Hub actually started after the Enabling Women program.
So tell us a little bit about that. How did that all come about?
So it started, there was quite a few Enabling Women programs around the region. Shepparton was the initial one, then Wangaratta. And then it came across to Cobram. So I was a mentor for the women's program in Wangaratta, which was run by Women's Health Goulburn North East and Women with Disabilities Victoria. And I was a mentor for a couple of the women who actually did that program. And then from there, when it came across here, then I was the mentor coordinator.
So how did you find the program? Being a mentor coordinator is a big responsibility because you have to work with people that you primarily don't know but are matched up with because of, various reasons. Did you enjoy that role?
Yes, it was a good role actually. It was interesting and, as you say, met a lot of different people who I sort of knew of, but people who I knew actually recommended other people. So it built a great network and sort of met lots of interesting people from all different roles, all different walks of life. So, really enjoyed that.
Okay, so prior to all of this, prior to enabling women and working here at the Hub, what sort of other work or interests have you had over the years?
Primarily, I was actually a French polisher. So for many years, I worked in my own shed, restoring antiques and rebuilding furniture, etc. But every now and then I'd get sick of the shed and I'd go and work in different places. So I'd worked for IBM. I'd always sort of volunteered. So done different roles in emergency relief and stuff like that. So then eventually decided that that's where I should train. So I trained in community service and development, and then started sort of working in this field.
Wow. Well, that's a big difference from French polishing.
Huge.
Both require a lot of patience, though.
Yes, both are actually what you do have to have quite a lot of patience, and also both are actually quite sort of analytical where you actually have to stop and keep figuring. So they're both constant challenges, which I like.
And they're both long-term prospects. Like French polishing isn't a paint job overnight. It's quite... You have to be disciplined and tenacious to get a big piece done, don't you?
Yes, yeah. You do. You do have to, look more at big picture and, sort of be constantly figuring what needs to be done next.
Yeah.
Just sort of be quite sort of tenacious with it.
So you're doing any of that now?
Not a lot now. Just do my own pieces now when I have time.
Yeah, you sound pretty busy because you also have another job as well.
Yes.
So you're working at Bunnings?
Yes. So I work part-time at Bunnings as well. So they're quite different, but also in a way sort of quite similar in that, you're sort of more visible at Bunnings. So having a disability and being out in the community to me is also still pretty important.
Yeah, visibility is a hugely important factor in displaying disability without it being just a word on a page, really.
Yes, and it's, if you're talking proper community service and development, then that's really taking it out into the community and actually, it's almost like a form of education, really, that, just a disability doesn't mean that you can't do things.
Yeah, sure. Do you live in Cobram?
No, I live in Yarrawonga.
How far away is that?
It's about 35 k's, so not too far. But still on the Murray, which is good.
And just across the border to New South Wales as well.
No, it's still in
not?
Victoria. They're both border towns. So there's Yarrawonga is the Victorian side, and then Mulwala is the New South Wales side.
Right. So if I was to move to Yarrawonga or Cobram, tell me a bit about the culture of the town, or both towns. Like, what's it like here in regional Victoria? If I move here, Liz Wright, as a non-driver, moves into a house, single person, how am I going to move about? What sort of things can I do here?
You'll be staying in your own town quite a lot. There's not a lot of public transport. So that's a really big issue for our region.
Yeah.
Is lack of transport. And that is a big factor here. So both towns are tourist towns. So in that way, there's sort of quite a bit to do in the actual towns themselves. But with moving around the regions, it's that's quite difficult. You sort of have either a bus, generally a bus, to your sort of nearest major town a couple of times a day. Same sort of thing to Melbourne. So, transport within the areas is huge.
So if I was to go from one town to another, I could be there for a few hours before I am able to get back home.
Yes.
Yeah, you'd want to plan your trips.
Yes, and you'd want something to do for the day, because if you were going for a half an hour appointment somewhere, you'll have quite a few hours to sort of kill in between being able to get back to where you live.
And is that sort of one of the issues that the women from the Hub have brought to your attention, as well as you being a local resident yourself?
Yes, primarily around the regions. If you don't drive, it is a big issue. So, people's main mode of transport is actually them driving themselves.
Yeah.
Or taxis, which is quite expensive as well. So when we're working with the women, part of our role is to enable transport so the women actually can participate in things.
So even if you provide a cab charge, is it likely to be reliable that people can get a cab to the meeting, or is it more organising a pickup?
No, it actually depends upon the towns.
Yeah.
Some towns are more reliable than others. Sort of also towns that have their own taxis. Some of the smaller towns, the taxis will actually go to. From Cobram, there'll be a taxi go out to, say, Catamatite, which is about 20 k's away.
Yeah.
So those people would be reliant on the taxis coming to them and being available, really, when they needed them.
Well, it's kind of problematic, isn't it, really, because that adds an extra cost to an individual if potentially they're living on a disability support pension or NDIS NDIS assisted, sorry. If you're not working for a lot of money, that adds to your financial stress on a socio-economic level, really.
Yes, and it is one of the things that we find that the women do have to factor into their decision making around what they're doing. Is there transport available, or else do they actually have money for a taxi, or is there somebody actually who can help out? But it sort of makes dependence on other people who might or might not be available. So that is actually part of their decision making.
Okay. So you at times would have people that can't make it to the hub because of a transport issue?
Yes.
Okay. How many members of the hub would you have?
Generally around sort of 12, 14 people.
And varied age group?
Very varied, yep. Yeah, so, sort of early 20s up to women in their 60s.
That's a nice intergenerational blend though, isn't it?
Yes, and they generally, they get along quite nicely actually.
Oh, that's good. So Jen, how long ago did you start being a wheelchair user?
So I was 14 when I got in the wheelchair. I had transverse myelitis, which is an infection in the spine after having the chicken pox.
Is that very rare?
Yes, it is fairly. It's sort of fairly uncommon, but more to the point, it's fairly uncommon to do as major damage as what it did with me.
And the major damage was all spinal?
Yes, yep. So I'm actually a complete paraplegic.
Yep.
So, yep.
14 is a difficult age to acquire a disability. Do you recall, and this is probably almost redundant to even ask this, but I bet you can recall in detail feelings and, the drama of the time, the drama and the trauma of the time?
Yeah. So I was standing on a netball court and I fell down, and within half an hour I was completely paralysed. But it took 6 days, I think, for them to figure out what had happened and why I was paralysed. So that was huge, and that was why it did so much damage as well, because it took so long.
For the diagnostic bit?
Yes, yep.
So were you ambulanced away from the netball court?
No, my dad actually came and got me, which was pretty cool. So he just came and picked me up.
Fireman's lift?
Yeah, took me home.
Really, fireman's lift?
Yeah, he just literally just picked me out because I was, fairly scrawny kid.
Yep.
So he just picked me up and took me home and, calmed me down and all the rest of it. And, we went to the hospital from there. And each of the times, for quite a while. When I moved, he just carried me.
Wow. So you're in hospital for 6 days before a diagnosis, or you're in hospital 6 days and longer because of the diagnosis?
So I was in hospital for a few days and they actually misdiagnosed it. They just diagnosed it as hysterical paralysis, which is interesting.
Oh, my God. That sounds like from the ye olde worldy days.
Well, it was interesting in that, basically they said, well, there's nothing wrong with you. It's all in your head. You need to go home. So I did go home, but, Mum and Dad weren't really very happy with that.
Yeah.
And neither was the local doctor. So he actually did more investigating, and a friend who was actually a paediatrician, he diagnosed it very quickly. So, and then from there I went to Melbourne and I was in hospital for the next 3 months from that point.
God, what's it like being a teenager in hospital? It's a huge change from being on the netball court, running around, being at school, to being were you physically sick and in pain, or you were just paralysed?
So no, it was just paralysed. So
right.
There was pain for the first few weeks while there was an infection.
Yeah.
But then from there it was a lot of learning, because I actually had to learn everything again. So, from going to the toilet to being able to transfer to using a wheelchair. So really to completely operate and live again. So it was busy. There was a lot of weightlifting and things like that to develop strength, to be able to move without using your legs, really. So that was the main thing. It was busy. So there wasn't actually a lot of thinking time, really.
Did you have friends that visited you from school?
Yes, yeah, I did actually. Whenever I was in local hospitals,
Yeah.
they'd come in. So yeah, that was I guess a bit of normality.
And then how long was it before you returned to school?
That was probably the hardest part actually, because
Yeah.
I got out of hospital and it was literally the following week went back to school like nothing had happened. So that's just, I still look at it now and think that's just bang on bizarre.
Yeah.
To actually, go from that, where you're sort of still learning to go to the toilet and to operate again, and then you go back to school with a heap of 14, 15-year-olds who are talking about boys and discos and clothes and things, which to you is about so irrelevant
Yeah.
that it's just weird. Yep, it's hard to fit back into.
So how did you manage it?
Probably not well. Yeah, I got. I wasn't much longer. Probably a year and a half of school, and then left school. So I left school very early. I moved out of home quite early as well, and just went and did my own thing for a while.
Was that rebellious independence?
It was rebellious independence, but it was also moving with older people who probably more life experience too, I guess, and weren't sort of clothes were not relevant, clothes were not important, all of that sort of stuff. Whereas to my age group, that was the sort of thing that they were interested in, and that they were, So I moved into a different world, I guess, which was a much older world. And with people who were more experienced.
How did you manage like share housing and things like that in, if we're going back quite a few years, I don't imagine accessibility and ramps and things were at your doorstep. So how did you manage things, newly disabled, but also managing new environments?
My parents were probably pretty awesome with that. Dad built a ramp, and that timber ramp came with me to multiple different houses. So wherever I moved to, I'd just set up a ramp at the front or the back door, which was ever easiest, generally the back door. And that just followed me around, and then a chair just thrown into the shower, and that was the modifications to the house. So it was all fairly simple, really.
Yeah.
And not complicated. And I think, that was probably one of the best things about it, because nobody really complicated things, whereas now there's lots of rules.
Yeah.
Lots of things that are supposed to happen. But, it was pretty simple, actually.
And what was your first job?
Oh, my goodness. So before I got in the wheelchair, I'd worked picking fruit. So that was probably my first job. Then when I got in the wheelchair, I worked as a kitchen hand. So that was my first sort of proper paying job.
Yep.
And then when I left school, I was just 16. So I went and worked as a secretary, sort of clerk, doing books and answering the phone, doing all that sort of stuff.
And did you find it easy to get work? Like what was the kind of perception of you as a young woman all those years ago, like easy or not so easy?
Yeah, I did. I think because I was known in the community and it was a small community, that made things easier. So, I did just go for a job interview and get a job. And people were generally quite nice, actually. When I worked as a kitchen hand, I'd actually gone for a job as a chef, having no clue of how I'd manage as a chef. And the head chef was awesome. He took me on as a kitchen hand and said, work over the summer and then tell me what you think of becoming a chef. And he sat down with me after I'd worked through Christmas and everything. And I said to him, well, I don't want to really be a chef anymore. I can't see in the pots.
Yeah.
And there's no way in the world that I could actually lift those pots and then move the wheelchair. And he said, I know, but I wanted you to figure that out. So I think that was pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, I think so too, rather than just making that decision on your behalf and not giving you the benefit of the doubt of having, wisdom to see what you can and can't do.
Yeah, and it was nice that he actually let me realise that by myself rather than just canning your dreams constantly.
So what about romance? Did you start dating at any point? Tell me to mind my own business if you don't want to answer.
Yeah, no, I was quite a typical kid in that way. There was different boyfriends and a partner and let's get married and let's not. So all the usual things really. And then, I met someone and we had a house together and all that sort of stuff in my early 20s. So in that way, everything was all quite normal, really.
Yeah.
In inverted commas type thing. Yeah, I'd made normal decisions and just followed them through. And I, as I said, had awesome family that they'd always just allowed me to make my own decisions and encouraged me to make my own decisions, be they right or wrong. Sort things out from there.
So you ended up partnering up with somebody and having a child?
Yes, I did. So,
What was that like as far as, and I'm not digging here, I'm just curious to know how the hospital was with, a young paraplegic woman having a child.
that was interesting because I wasn't really young. I was actually 37. So I was already quite set in my ways and quite sort of happy to make my own decisions and be quite vocal about it. But also they were what I'd call bang on useless because it's a country area, so there's not a lot of people particularly in wheelchairs.
Yeah.
So their experience with a paraplegic having a baby was not huge. So, that was probably more problematic than anything. It was actually, but having said that, again, I was very lucky. There was a couple of doctors who were working with Women's Hospital in Melbourne, so they were also happy to refer back to people, which was good.
So how old is your daughter now?
So she's 16 and a half. Yeah, nearly 17 actually.
And is she like you?
Yes, she's pretty stubborn, pretty fiery.
Yeah.
Yeah, and into everything, which is good. Yeah, so she's a busy kid.
What sort of things does she do?
So she kayaks, she plays the drums, which, that's pretty cool, and the glockenspiel.
That's pretty unusual.
It is rather. So she's in the band at high school, which is good. And, so she loves horses, loves horse riding, loves running. But, as I said, into everything really.
So would you say she's a proper country kid?
Yes, I would. Yeah.
You can't imagine her living in the city as yet?
No. She's already talking about, I'll go away to study, but I don't want to live there.
Jenny, you've got Nikita, your daughter, but you also have a partner and he has a daughter. Can you talk to me a bit about Matt and Lily and how they fit into your world?
So Matt is my partner, as you say, and then Lily is his daughter and she's actually the same age as Nikita, so that's pretty cool. So she's just turned 17. Yeah, so they get along quite nicely, which is all good.
And they're very different kids, aren't they, as far as hobbies and things?
They are, yeah. They're quite different kids, but as I said, they do get along quite nicely, which is awesome. And they both love art, actually, which makes it pretty cruisy. There's always one of them painting something or doing something.
And what's Matt like?
Probably as weird as me.
Yeah.
So he loves renovating as well. So he has a broken house as well. So, so that house is about an hour. The houses are about an hour and a half away from each other. And they're both equally as broken. So it's always interesting who's doing what and who needs to fix what and what tradies are coming in. So everything is always sort of booked out with next.
That sounds like between the four of you, you're all super busy.
It is pretty busy, yeah. And we cover a lot of miles, actually. That's one of the things. We see lots of the region. The kids are at school in different towns, different activities, etc. So, it does make it busy but interesting.
What sort of mileage do you reckon you do a week?
I don't know how many I do per week, actually, but, around between 40 and 45,000 Ks per year on just my car. And then Matt would do the same sort of thing in his cars.
Yeah, this region's quite spread out, isn't it?
Yes.
What would be the kind of distance between, is it like, I know on the Bellarine Peninsula it's approximately 12 k's between each little town. It's bigger than that here, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So generally 30 to 50 k's. But like, to your next major town, it would generally be sort of 50 to 100 k's.
Yeah.
To your major town. So from there you rack up a lot of miles very quickly.
So, I think probably if you think about that perspective of having to rack up a lot of miles is a lot of time taken out of your work day as well. And I think if you compare that to a lot of metropolitan workers who aren't doing a giant commute, it's no wonder you're, tired and don't watch TV.
Yes. By the end of the day, the last thing in the world that I want to do is sit down and watch a television. Even social media, I don't do social media, just for the simple reason that by the end of the day, by the time everything's finished, and all the jobs are done, etc., the last thing in the world I want to do is look at a screen. So no, I don't do any of it. I just relax.
Now, Jenny, I know you're really, really busy and you cover many, many miles, dropping Nikita and Lily off at the bus, things like that, driving 35 k's from Yarrawonga to Cobram for work and working at Bunnings, all of those sorts of things that you need to do in a country town. But you also have a big passion that involves your car, which is op shopping and looking at pieces of furniture to restore because you're, again, renovating a house. Talk to me about your love of renovation.
I do love renovating things, and I do love taking things which are broken and discarded and making them like new again. So I think that's how I look at it. And it's lovely to look at something and think, I wonder what it was like before. Let's see what we can come back to. So, yeah, I do love renovating, whether it's houses or furniture, all kinds of old things. And as you say, love op shops.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and, finding treasures is just exciting.
So your sort of renovating is anything from chipping bricks to painting to, preparing wood for floorboards and things like that. If you wanted to do up a piece of furniture as well, how long does it take to, say, do up a dresser?
So generally I'd look at around a week. Yeah, because, then that would be knocking it apart, rebuilding it, stripping it, sanding it, restaining it and then polishing it. So all of that process, I'd generally look at around a week. So if you're still working and stuff like that, then I'd try and, do a bit of a job each day. You'd have it in clamps, when you come home from work. And then on the weekend you'd be stripping it and sanding it and stuff like that. But yeah, it's sort of it's a lot of time, and it's probably more juggling than anything else because on the weekend you need to fix everything up and do washing and etc., and then still be trying to renovate the house as well.
You've got a history of renovating houses. How many have you done?
Oh, this one's number 4 by myself. And then, with my ex-husband, there was a couple as well. So, I think it's 6 that have been properly renovated.
Wow. I'm kind of envious because I need to buy in that kind of help. So with this house, this beautiful old house, what is it? Is it an Edwardian? Or Victorian?
So it's Victorian, and it's 1886, we think. And it's an old house in Yarrawonga, but this one's brick, so it's been more complicated. Timber's easier, brick is more complicated. We've found that they're much harder to restore actually, but it is quite beautiful, and it will be quite beautiful when it's finished.
And it's not going to be your last, is it?
No.
So it's a hobby.
Yeah, I keep saying I'll stop it and then I'll just get a proper house that's not falling down, but we'll see how that goes.
I think you'd be too bored without renovating.
There would be a whole lot more time. I'd need more hobbies. Maybe I'd go back to the furniture, but then with that, what do you do with all the furniture?
Well, I know you've got a lot of chairs. But there's an irony there, seeing as you don't really sit in them.
Yes, Matt, my partner, he keeps saying, so when do you actually planning on sitting in any of those chairs? And it's just like, no, they're just pretty.
They're just pretty, yeah.
So, yeah, that is, it is pretty ironic that, I do have far too many chairs, and I do look at them and then think, okay, they are pretty, but now what?
Well, you know that you can always do that big sale.
Yeah, we keep looking at it and saying, giant clearing sale type thing, and get rid of all the excess furniture. Maybe one day.
If you were going to describe yourself within a paragraph, this is hard, I know, what would you say about Jenny Godwin?
Stupidly stubborn. That would be the first thing. Yeah, stupidly stubborn and fairly determined would be the next thing. Once I decide something, my dad says to me, "Is that a when or an if?"
Yeah.
And I think that sentence pretty much describes me. And I'll generally turn around and say, "Well, I've already spoken about it, so it's when."
Wow. Thank you so much, Jenny. It has been lovely talking to you today. Wish you all the best with all of the proposed jobs you've got coming up. And it's been great to get to know you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
To find out more about Women with Disabilities Victoria, go to wdv.org.au.